Welcome to a special produced by Guadalupe Media. Today we have with us members of the Divine Mercy Youth Group who went over to the World Youth Day held in Panama in January of 2019. So you guys could introduce yourselves.
My name is Gemma Habet. I go to SCA. I play volleyball and piano, and I'm part of the Divine Mercy Youth Group.
My name is Parker Chubb. I go to Edward Pierre High School. I run track. I'm a member of the Divine Mercy Youth Group, and I'm also a member of the Divine Mercy Parish Council.
My name is Tessa Hoffa. I go to SCA. I enjoy singing, dancing, and playing guitar. And I'm a member of the Divine Mercy Youth Group, and I'm also a member of the Divine Mercy Parish Council.
All right, so you guys being members of the youth group, you obviously were probably in a meeting told that they wanted you guys to attend the World Youth Day in Panama. So I wanted to know what your guys' reactions first when they told you guys we want to take you to Panama.
Well, we were never told. We were the ones that came up to our leaders and told them that we wanted to go. So it was more our initiative rather than asked by Father. And I think that's what made it more interesting because we were the ones that wanted to do it. So, yeah.
So you guys were the ones who came up with the idea to say, let's go to Panama. You know, the World Youth Day only happens once every 3 years, right?
Yeah.
Last time it was held in Poland. And so you guys, props to you guys for being able to decide that, hey, we want to go. You know, it will do all that it takes to, imagine you guys probably had to do a lot of fundraising to get that done.
Yeah.
Any memories that you remember along the way of trying to get the money to do this?
So we cleaned the church every Saturday, and that was one way that we raised funds to go. We also did bake sales. We also did fundraising like car washes and stuff like that.
And so little by little,
we raised money to go. And because it was a lot of us going, then we had help from other people who really pushed us and motivated us to do better in our fundraising.
So when the time came down to it to actually say, let's go, let's drive over to the airport, I'd like you guys to take me through the trip. How was it like from the airport, Philip Wilson Airport, all the way to arriving in Panama? What was that like?
It was, for some of us, it was our first time being in a plane. And so it was very exciting. And we did have some difficulties, with immigration and the papers, and it was very hectic with all of the immigration process itself. But when we got on the plane, it was a very good flight, although they did have some bumps in the road, towards the ending when we were landing. But when we got there, it was really a very nice experience. And when we got to the airport, as soon as we got there, we could feel the World Youth Day spirits because we'd be passing and some people who worked in the airport, in the shops, the duty-free shops, they would scream pilgrims, screaming at us, and they were so happy to see us. And then some other pilgrims that arrived, we sang while we were waiting in the line. We didn't even feel the wait in the line to get through the immigration to get into Panama because all the other people from Mexico and different parts of the world were singing, and it was really a nice experience.
So to have that sense of unity, so far away from home, where it feels like you guys already know each other, even though you've never met, from all over the world, because you're all there for the same purpose, to celebrate the Youth Day. And especially being in Panama, what were some of the things that touched you when you arrived there, aside from meeting, new friends that you've only seen for a couple days, and then that kind of thing stuck with you? So any friends that you met or things that you saw in Panama in your time there?
Well, what really touched us was the first night when we arrived in Colon, which is 2 hours away from the city. We were there for days in the diocese. And the first night when we got there, we got to the church at 11 o'clock at night, and all of our host families were there waiting for us with signs, and they were singing the World Youth Day song, and everybody was dancing, and they were so excited and so welcoming, and it was so amazing just seeing how they welcomed us with open arms from the start, and immediately we knew that this was going to be the best 2 weeks of our lives. And it was like, we came off of a plane, we were sleeping in the bus on our way to Cologne, and once we arrived, it was like all of our, we didn't even feel tired anymore. It was just amazing. We did meet friends from all over the world. We met some friends from Panama, some of the volunteers. We met from Venezuela, Poland, Mexico, Canada, all the countries you could ever imagine, Jamaica, South Africa, all of those countries. It was really, really amazing.
That sounds great to be able to make friends in such a short amount of time that lasts longer than you think they would. And so I wanted to hear from each of you, like if you had to say what was like the highlight of your trip. I don't know if that would be easy to do after having so many different things happening over the course of 2 weeks, but if each of you can give me a highlight, that would be great to hear.
So my highlight was when we went to visit the Sisters of the Divine Mercy, and when we arrived, the sisters were introducing themselves to us, and after that they said, let's go visit the owner of the house. And we went into adoration, and that just touched me, like when they called Jesus the owner of the house. That was really amazing.
My highlight there at Panama was during the vigil. Before the sending off mass, we had a vigil, and we had an adoration. It was really touching with all the music, and you could just feel the love, and you could feel all the emotion, and it was really touching because you see all these millions of people worshiping God, and it was really amazing.
My highlight would be everything was mostly in Spanish, but this one night we went to this convention center, and most of the talks were in English by English American speakers, and we had adoration, and we got to meet Bishop Barron, and we watched his videos a lot, and that was really touching to get to see him in person, and the music was so beautiful, and as someone who really enjoys music, the music itself just brought tears to my eyes because of how beautiful it was and how talented people are. That was my highlight.
So in looking at pictures of the World Youth Day, I know that there was a mass that was done by the Pope. And so I can imagine, we've all probably seen the Pope on camera through TV, on your phones, on your laptops. But what was it like being there in person, in that crowd of people, to be in a mass where the Pope is right there in front of you? What was that like seeing him in person?
It was really amazing and overwhelming to see him right there. And everyone was screaming and pushing, and people were crazy to see him. And one of my friends, when he was passing back, he waved in her general direction, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, your Pope waved at me!" And she ran back, and she went on the floor, and she was just crying, and everyone was just by seeing him, we just were crying, and we're so overwhelmed, and whoa, it was whoa.
It's crazy to be held together by that kind of instant bond with friends, and then you're two of you together, or three of you, all of you, watching the Pope there in time, doing a mass right there with you. And so that kind of leads to having people together, have this unity so far from all your countries, homeland, all in one spot. What do you guys think was what draws people? Because you all have your own reasons for going and wanting to go, but what do you think it is that can draw sometimes millions of youth from all across the world to one place to worship God together?
When we were there, it was really amazing, even from the airport to the end of the trip, when we were saying, when we left the church in the Panama City, it was so amazing to see the Universal Church gathered in one location to just worship God for 2 weeks. And that it's amazing how how the Pope can just bring all the youths together. From the start, you don't even know any of those people really, and it's you knew them for so long, and it's simply because of our love for God that brought all of us together. And that was the most amazing part of the whole trip, just seeing how so many youths from different backgrounds, different countries come together to worship God, and especially at the vigil when over 1 million people were there throughout the whole night, camping out and through adoration with the Pope. It was really amazing, and I think that's what brought all of us together, was simply our love for God. Yeah.
So it's crazy to imagine, because I remember seeing you guys posing at the Belizean flag at all the different locations, at the mass, out in the fields where you guys had with your friends. So that must have been quite a lot to represent your country so far away, to be able to say, look, we're here from Belize, and we're here for the same reason as everyone else. And what do you guys think was like the most important thing about like representing your country? Because sometimes we all tend to feel a little bit alone in being the people that say, oh, I'm only 17 years old or 16 years old, but I want to do more for my faith. And so to see so many people around you who believe the same or are around your same age must be a lot, So if you guys could say, wow, like what do you think was the best part of representing your country,
The best part about representing our country is that not a lot of people get the opportunity to go to World Youth Day. So it was really special. We got to go, and we got to go with the Belize flag around our backs and in our hands. Many of the countries doesn't even know where Belize is. So it was really special that we got this opportunity to share about our country and about our culture and our language with them.
That's great. That's great to hear, because I wanted to end off with asking you guys, what was the one thing that, when it comes to your faith, that changed, that was significantly changed from that trip? Something that you left and you were transformed because of what you saw or who you interacted with from your trip to Panama?
It definitely made me realize that, like a lot of times, a lot of youths are scared to say that, I go to church and I'm like, very active in my church. And I think that because of peer pressure. But this really made me realize that, we're not the only ones. And there's so many youths out there that are really looking for God, and just simply because of either their parents that don't allow them to express their love for God, or their friends. And it was there, people, your friends, like within my youth group, I can definitely say that all of them are my best friends. And these are the few people that you can talk to about your faith. And World Youth Day definitely made me come to more realization, and made me appreciate my faith so much more, because of all of the different encounters that we had there, and seeing all of the different relics that you don't even know that they had. It was the best. It was honestly just the best. So yeah.
So being, changed from this kind of journey, would you say that, like, being far away, all the way in Panama, would you say that there was a special moment where it was just you alone with God, where you were like, man, I'm somewhat alone, but surrounded by, peers that are like me, that go to church and they believe in God and they try to do right by Him? So did you ever have any specific moments where it was just you and God, and you were, trying to take some comfort in knowing that, you were trying to do the right thing by going to the World Youth Day?
Yes, I think it was every single time that we went to adoration, we got to feel the presence of God, and it was, it wasn't like you could tell me or that's just a piece of bread with a pretty monstrance. That was definitely Jesus, and everyone felt the presence, and everyone, had that encounter with Him that night. People who probably never ever felt the presence of God before definitely felt it at that moment when we were in adoration. And I felt, the love of Jesus, and I was like, wow, if no one loves me, that's okay, because Jesus loves me so much. Like he loves all of us so much, and in a personal way. Even though he loves everyone, he loves each of us in a different way, because all of us are different. And so, that made me feel so special. And I felt, it doesn't matter if I'm rejected for my faith. It doesn't matter if people would talk bad about me or they would want to bring me down, because ultimately the goal isn't to please anyone or to succeed here on earth, although those are nice things, but the goal is to get to heaven and to see Jesus someday. That's what we're made for.
Well, thanks for sharing all your little experiences and your insights on going to the World Youth Day. And I'm excited to get into more questions after we take a short break. So we're going to cut away for a bit, and then when we're back, we're going to be covering some more on World Youth Day and members from the Divine Mercy Youth Group. And we're back with 3 other members from the Divine Mercy Youth Group that attended World Youth Day to get their perspectives on the trip. I'm going to give you guys the floor to introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Camille Lam. I attend SCA High School, and my hobby is definitely playing football.
My name is Chris Herrera. I go to St. John's College, Junior College, and my interests are playing football, reading books, and watching movies. And I'm also part of the Divine Mercy Youth Group.
Hi, my name is Alina. I enjoy reading and spending time with my family. I go to SJC JC with Chris, and I'm also a part of the Divine Mercy Youth Group.
So, as we talked about earlier, it was actually your guys' idea to say, we want to attend the World Youth Day and go to Panama. So I wanted to hear from you guys this time on what your thoughts were, the kind of excitement or the nervousness on saying, like, oh, one person suggests it, and you're like, what? Why are we going to go all the way to Panama? Do we have to? Or maybe you were excited to do so. So what were you guys' thoughts?
Well, at the beginning, at first, we thought that it was something near to impossible. I imagine, wait, this is World Youth Day, this is a global event, right? And I never went to any kind of global event ever, and I thought like it was impossible for me to go there. But then this group was like, you know what, we're serious about this. We should actually try it and begin to raise funds and try our best to get all this money so that we can go to the World Youth Day. And it was a difficult process for us to get the money. Also, there were families in the Divine Mercy Church that actually helped us to sponsor some money for us. Like they really wanted us to make us go to this World Youth Day to have this amazing experience, this amazing encounter with the Universal Church.
So it was definitely a lot, probably a roller coaster getting there and, arriving. And so I wanted to hear about how you guys felt when you arrived and you met your host families. What was that like for you guys?
When we arrived in Panama, we went to Margarita in Colon. Our host family had signs. They were singing, dancing. They were so welcoming, and they were so excited that pilgrims got to stay at their houses. It looks like they were even more excited than us. When we went to their homes, they were so nice, welcoming. They treated us as if we were their own children. They were so happy. They were open to any questions, even though they couldn't speak English and we couldn't speak Spanish. There wasn't any language barrier. We made it work. Yeah.
So it must have been crazy to have this group of people, this family that is so ready to accept you guys, and despite of the language barrier between Spanish and English, they wanted to treat you like their very own children. And I'm guessing that was a very warm experience to be able to, feel so at ease, even though you just arrived, and to be in this family. And on a trip like this, I would feel like everyone has their highs and lows. Some are more excited than others. Maybe there were times where you felt alone or nervous or regretful, or any type of other times where you're wondering, I don't know about this, So I wanted to hear about maybe the low points that some of you guys had on the trip.
At the end of every day, we would read the gospel, and then everyone would say their high, low, and God moment. And most of our low moments, almost every day, was walking because we had to walk really long distances. And we were also very hungry most of the time. And we also had some other little problems that we would say that was our low moment. But we also had high moments too where we enjoyed our time, and we had God moments where we experienced God throughout our day, and we would share that with the group at the end of every day.
So when it comes to like high moments where you would say, oh, I really felt connected to God, or, you know, you just felt in so much grace because you're here at World Youth Day and surrounded by so many people who believe in God and practice the faith. And I wanted to know if there was like a specific high moment where you're like, yes, this is it, to be Catholic and to be a young person surrounded by so many peers who are like me. What would you say were some of your high moments?
Well, one high moment I can actually highlight was the conference that we had with when there were different people speaking, some bishops, some cardinals, and they shared their experiences on even topics upon focus, and they talked about their own life with Jesus and how we should live our youth life. And then after that, we went into adoration, and we heard this beautiful songs. Those songs were just amazing. We just felt the impact of it. And also, another thing what I would highlight was when the first time we actually saw the Pope. That was something amazing, because I was wondering, it's not on screen, it's actually me watching him with my own eyes, and it's right there, the Pope passing by, and then after that he was celebrating the Mass. It was amazing.
Yeah, to be able to see the head of our religion, to see the Pope Francis himself in person must have been quite the experience for you guys. And going off of the host families, you guys said how there was so much excitement for you guys to arrive, that not only was it like a benefit to you guys to be able to travel and see other people, but also they felt like it was a blessing for them to be able to accept people into their homes and to be able to care for you. I also heard that you guys had went to the Sisters of Mary and Jesus, who they take care of children who are born HIV positive. And so I wanted you guys to take me through what it was like, you know, going there and interacting with the sisters and maybe talking with the kids or just playing with them. What was that like for you guys?
Well, I really enjoyed it being there and listening to the sisters and explaining to us about the place, when it was founded, who was it founded by, and it's actually something really touching, because especially in Panama, that they have this compound here that they protect the human rights of these young children who are HIV positive, and even some of those who are elder who are HIV positive. And we were there, and she was explaining to us about the different facilities they have, the amenities, and we were there. But then one thing that we couldn't do is actually seeing was with HIV positive, because it was more protecting their privacy. And it was they actually mentioned us a lot, that they said that we couldn't even take pictures with them. But then we actually took the chance to see some of the children there at the end, and we saw them, and like they were really with great joy, and we were around them. We just started talking to them, playing with them, and it was something really touching. And I actually laughed when Father Scott was there and he played with those kids, and you know, like it was such a blessing for us.
To be able to spend time with people, and it's not even about, oh, let's get pictures so we can like look good, or we can take it back and show people like how great it was, but just to be in there in the moment with these kids probably meant a lot to them, something that could stick with them for the rest of their lives. And I understand that you guys also got to meet some people from all around the world, and you probably formed friendships that lasted like longer than when you guys were there. So what was it like to meet people and make friends? If there were any friends that you met from like other countries that you had barely even heard of, what was that like for you guys?
Well, it was something that I actually didn't expect. It was easier for me that since I can talk Spanish, to make new friends with others that are from Latin American countries, and I was there talking to them in Spanish. We were there just discussing about our country, where our country is located, because a lot of them asked us where Belize is, and they didn't know. And we explained to them about our faith, about our country's history, and we just were there discussing this for a while, and like we wanted to continue to talk. Sometimes we end up talking 1 hour, like 2 hours, maybe we were there just chatting and chatting, and every one of us just made our own individual friends. We made our friends even with our families. Yeah.
So, and it must have been pretty difficult for you guys to like leave, and you don't know if you'll ever see these people in person again. You don't know if they'll be attending next year, and they live so far away. So, what was that like experiencing like what it felt like to lose a friend and hope that you would be able to keep contact with them?
It was definitely a really sad moment. Like most of us like started to cry. Our host families were crying. It was so sad because we've only been with them for 1 week, but we've like built such a strong relationship with them, and to see us leave, it was like a sad moment. Yeah.
And like they say, all good things must come to an end.
Yeah.
And for you guys being able to come back, what would you say is the one thing from each of you? Would you say was the one thing that like stuck with you, or something that changed after you went to Panama and came back? Something that you took away with you? What you guys thought about it?
Definitely before we went to Panama, like I was so caught up in all the earthly things, and everything, like I wasn't living like in the moment. I was like just like so caught up in all like the earthly things and what people want us to be, like our friends, but like I never got the chance to like live the moment. So like when I went to Panama, every time in adoration, when we were at the vigil, I got to like nothing could like distract us, because like the people there were like, we could see Jesus through them. So they were like making us better people and not bringing us down. And we were living in the moment and seeing Jesus Christ through every single person there.
Anyone else have anything else that changed them from the trip?
One thing I can share is the songs. Like, there were some songs that I never heard of before, and those songs were really beautiful. So what I thought as I reached Belize, I said that I'll download these songs and just continue playing them so that I can remember what I've experienced over at Panama, and also physically what we took from Panama. This was actually something really funny, that we took this life-size dinosaur that one of the families gave us, and we call him Bosco. And like it's just so, we just have him right there, and like we just call him, like we say that he's part of the AU group also, and also we put his name Bosco so that we can also remember about the saint Don Bosco, which is a patron saint of World Youth Day, and it will remind us of also the different saints and their lives. And that was another thing that we were discussing there over World Youth Day, about the saints and how they live their lives and dedicating their entire life to God.
Well, for me, the one thing that changed was that I'm more serious about my prayer and time with God in adoration, because before I went to Panama, I go to adoration every Saturday, but my mind would just run off and think about other things instead of appreciating the time I have with God. So when I went to Panama, we went to this one night at the convention center at adoration, and that was the one time I think that God really spoke to me, and I want to keep hearing His voice. So I think that the next time I go to adoration, I'll really pray and talk to God and hear what He has to say to me.
So aside from having your new friend Bosco to be able to represent the trip that you guys made, would you guys have any other ways that you would try and keep the spirit of World Youth Day alive with you as you continue to be here and you know, meet up and you get together? How would you guys say that you would try and keep the spirit of, you know, being together alive until maybe the next time you decide to go, or the next group that decides to go to the World Youth Day?
Well, you know, one thing that can remind us of our experience, or another thing that would allow us to remember it, is the communicating with our own families, because we made a long-lasting. We know we are gonna be a long-lasting friendship with those families over there, and we just communicate with them. We chat to them. We call them, ask each other about our own experience, how it was, and like we just tell them how much we miss that what did they experience. And also another thing can be the social media page of Panama. They continue to post different things about the World Youth Day, and how they are in preparation also for the next following World Youth Day, which is in Portugal in 2022.
So until then, you guys are going to be probably waiting to hopefully maybe go again. So what would you guys say that you did for fun to pass the time? Because I know that you probably had some downtime, you know, aside from going to bed or eating, or, you know, what would you guys say that you probably did to pass the time?
But some of us, when we had our free time, our families decided to carry us on like different destinations in Panama. Others, some of us would go to a beach or to a fort, to visit a fort. Or some of us went to visit the Panama Canal. And in my personal experience, I didn't end up going to Panama Canal, even though I really wanted to just see that canal. And although I heard the descriptions from other youth groups about how the Panama Canal looks and the different ships that pass through, that was what we did in our pastime. Or also we were like just have a nice supper with our families.
And so it must have been nice to be able to just take 2 weeks, you know, away from school, away from all the other things that you probably have to think about in your day-to-day lives, and simply be in the moment. And so thank you guys for sharing your thoughts, your opinions, your experience on World Youth Day. And we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be asking some more questions on World Youth Day. Welcome back. Today we're talking about the World Youth Day 2019 that took place in Panama. Today we have two members of the Divine Mercy Youth Group and one of the leaders of the youth group to talk about their experiences. So I'm going to give you guys the floor to introduce yourselves.
Okay, my name is Santos Herrera. I'm from St. John's Junior College, and my hobby is I love to play football, and I also have an artistic side of me.
My name is Candice Garbo. I go to Paulville High School, and one of my hobbies is eating, being with my friends, and playing and running track and field.
My name is Abraham Obando. I'm a systems analyst at the Central Bank of Belize and a parishioner here at Divine Mercy. And, you know, my family and I basically, you know, my wife, myself, my kids have really, you know, taken on the youth group as our extended family. And we've been working with them for the past year, and it's been an amazing experience.
So I know everyone on this trip has had their own kind of experience, and so I wanted to talk about how you guys, I heard that there was some issues when it came to trying to get through the crowds, especially in the metro, because it was the first time you've probably been in a underground metro to travel to place. So what was that like for you guys, trying to go through the crowds?
Well, for many, it was a bit disturbing trying to be with contact with a lot of people. But for me, it was pretty fun trying to get through the crowd, especially when we were holding hands and everyone was just kind of joining together to get through. There was also this incident where one of our group members were lifted up as she tried to get through the crowd. But it was a very unique experience. It was for me, the first time being through through a lot of people, so it was very fun for me.
It was very fun because, well, for others it wasn't fun. It was a part of their low moment for the day. But for me, it was just fun and exciting. And well, we had to holding hands and just shoving each other. It was very fun. And they had this incident when we were coming from the entrance mass for the port coming in to Panama City. Our group was making our way out, and they had this elderly lady that she was trying to come out to, and all the others from the other countries was shoving her and pulling her and rubbing her around, and she began to cry. And so myself and other of the group, we stopped to let her pass, and we just carry on and continue. But other than that, that part was fun.
And I see that also you guys got some stylish shirts that were given to you. How did you guys get the shirts?
I actually bought this shirt from a store, but it basically has the JMJ logo on it with Panama 2019. So it's nothing special. It has the logo, but I mean, I just bought it for souvenir purposes.
Well, I got this one from when we went to Panama City. They gave us our package, and this is one of the shirts that we got. And they had it in blue and red. And we got water bottle with the logo, school bags, and different things in it.
I also heard that you guys visited the Sisters of Calcutta, and you got to talk to them also and talk to the elderly people that were there with them. What was that like?
I think that was a very wonderful experience, being that we don't have the Sisters of Calcutta here in Belize. And I think it was also a moment to kind of enlighten the youth, to seeing the work that the church does. In every part of the world, the church is present doing works of mercy. And when we got there, we celebrated Mass there, and there was a relic of a first-class relic of Saint Mother Teresa of Calcutta. And then after that, we went to visit the people that had been abandoned. I had a unique experience there because while we were there, I met this gentleman, and it was Gemma and I who went to visit this gentleman in the bed, and we were there sharing with him. And he was from Boca del Toro, a place in Panama where they speak English. So we were speaking to him in English, and we asked him if we could share a decade of a rosary with him. And we were praying with him, and as we were praying, he just broke down and he said, this is the best gift he has received, from anyone, that we're praying for him and with him. And he just started to cry, and that was a very beautiful moment there for us.
Also, when we were at with the sisters, they had this elderly lady that she just came out of the hospital, and so Father asked us to come and pray with her, and so we prayed. And earlier in the morning, I had my scapular that Father gave me, but I was wondering if I should have brought it or not. But anyway, I brought it, and Father asked me if I can give it to the lady, and so that she could pray with it, and so I gave it to her, and after we left, she just began to cry.
I had mentioned that this World Youth Day experience has been an experience where I've had so many first-time experiences, and one of them was visiting the Sisters of Calcutta. I've never seen them in person, and it was the first time I saw them. What struck me though was the actual when they took care of these people, they put all their effort into loving these people that are you would consider them as outcasts of society, and they follow the same thing as what Mother Teresa did, and take care of these people.
And so, being on this trip together, you must have been able to, connect with one another, trying to stick together as a group. And especially, I bet you guys love talking to each other, just hanging out with one another. So that must have been one of the shake-ups of the trip, is when you guys had a silent retreat. And so I wanted to know what you guys went through on that silent retreat. What was it like having to go, whatever amount of time you had to go without talking, and what you think about it?
Well, for me, it was challenging because I love to talk and laugh for everything, and we had mass and adoration, but I really felt the Holy Spirit with me. I even began to cry. And when we went up on a mountain, I just went away from myself, and I just struck the Holy Spirit guiding me through that. And on our way back, we still had to be quiet, and that was the time where it was very challenging because I had Parker, Camille, and Alina right beside me, and it was just hard for me not to say a word. I think I spoke 2 or 3 times, but it was good.
The silent retreat for me was a beautiful experience. I consider myself to be a very quiet person, and so it wasn't a struggle for me to get adapted to the silence. And so it was a time where I could have encountered my problems one-on-one and try to face them with the help and the grace of God. And so it was a very beautiful experiences with all the theme that was given, the God as the artist, as the one who created everything. And I think it was just a really beautiful experience where God could have touched us, where God could have talked to us. Being in the distraction, so many times we don't have time to actually listen to God. But there I could have actually heard God's voice, and it kind of set the way for me to receive the graces that were going to come in the activities in the World Youth Day.
That retreat wasn't planned as part of the days in the diocese. It came about, Father Scott stayed with this wonderful person, and she told him, you guys have to go to this place. And it's a place where it's the place where 2 societies or 2 communities in Panama have been founded. The Society of Mary and Jesus and the Society of the Sisters of Divine Mercy. So we didn't know this. So we got one of the host families to arrange getting us there, the transportation. So they were very open to us, and accommodating to us, to our last minute changes. And they made it happen, and we went there. And when we got there, we didn't know we were going to the Sisters of Divine Mercy. So when we got there, they said, we are the Sisters of Divine Mercy. And we go, we are from the Divine Mercy Parish. So that was wonderful, to be there. And they explained to us what they did again. Their community there takes care of abandoned children. So they had kids, 4 kids were from 6 months to a year. And then our 4 kids were between the ages of 1 and 4. And that's what they do there. That's their ministry. That's the work they do. And one of the sisters there was telling us, she did this pilgrimage they call the Way of the Quetzal. And she did come to Belize. And while she was here in Belize, that's when she got her calling, to become a sister in there. So she went back at the age of 16 and said, Lord, here I am, to be done to me according to your word. And she was sharing this with the youth group there, and while we were up there in this mount, she was also explaining to us that, they consider that little mountain there a bit sacred for them because, one, they had a brother or a priest in their society that had personal manifestations of Mary there, and also at one point in time, we had to walk up there, barefoot, even because she said once they were celebrating Mass, and this big shower came in Panama. It would be like this one moment, and next moment it was pouring. And they had this ciborium, and I think it spilled. So, that's why it's sacred up there. Because Jesus was on the ground, so you will have to go up there in holy ground, barefoot. But indeed, it was a moment where, you could just contemplate inward, and try to hear God and be at peace with God. I think that really, like Santos says, prepared the way, to receiving the graces that God had prepared for us in the rest of the World Youth Day.
So I feel like it definitely adds to the level of just of a magical feeling of just being, you're miles away from home, and sadly, you know, you have family back at home, and you just want to be able to have a good time, to be able to grow closer to God, and then you know, remove your shoes and remove your socks and everything so that you can, you know, be in God's presence and show reverence is definitely a lot, you know, to take in. And I had asked the previous guests about their high and low moments, so I wanted to hear from you guys. Would you, certain moments where you maybe felt closer to God, or maybe moments where things weren't as good as you had hoped, and you were trying to just keep the faith and, you know, stay with God during your time there?
Well, my low moment was our distance, when we had to walk and walk and walk and walk. And there were other times when we were hungry and we still had to walk. The sun was hot and it was just terrible. And then one of my high moments was when the Pope arrived in Panama, and we were out with the crowd waiting for the Pope to pass, and I was there, and like the Pope just waved at me, and I just felt so happy, and I felt special because the Pope healed me. And I just ran back to my group and I told them that, guys, the Pope healed me, and I just fell down, and I felt very special and then my group members tried to discourage me by telling me that the Pope was just waving at everyone, but yes, he was waving at everyone, but I was there, so he waved at me, and I just felt special.
Well, since it was sort of like we had to share our high, low, and God moments every day, and so it's difficult to actually pinpoint one high, low, and God moment. But if seeing the Pope wasn't a high moment, then I don't know what was. I think that I saw him 4 times, and the first 3 times I recorded him, but the last time I didn't record him. I just wanted to enjoy the moment because, you know, just like holding the camera and all of that was a bit of work for me, and I couldn't just enjoy the moment. So the last time was really when he was going to Mass, the final Mass, and then I could have really enjoyed that moment. A low moment would be at the end, having to leave my host family, especially the one at Panama City. They were very loving, and so leaving them was like leaving part of me, and I felt really in place with them. And my God moment would be just everything, but to be specific, it would be to hear God's voice calling me to sanctity, which is what was the goal of the World Youth Day, was to reveal to every one of us the mission that we have in our lives. And so all of us are called to sanctity, but the way we do that is very different in each of our lives. But God, I clearly heard him speak to me, calling me into being closer to him. And many times I've thought that sanctity would mean going to the extremes, giving my all to God, and it is giving my all to God, but I always thought of being like a Mother Teresa or a St. John Paul II. And so experiencing this and experiencing the joy of being a youth and being able to serve Christ in the youth is what really struck me.
Takes it to like a next level for you. To
Yes.
say, you know, this is it, to make the faith real, that you're traveling so far and doing so much for him. And I want to thank you guys for sharing your thoughts, your experiences. And I wanted to end off with Mr. Ovando. I know that everyone had their fair share of excitement, but I feel like it couldn't compare to having so many youth in your care, to have their parents say, we're trusting you to take them halfway across the world. And so I wanted to hear from you, what was it like shepherding the youth group?
Well, like I said, you know, it's not something that I do on my own. We're basically a family, you know. This is just my extended family, is what I tell them. You know, you're my extended family. And, you know, like when I every Friday we're here, you know, my wife, myself, and my 2 sons are here. So they fit in with them. They feel like these are, you know, their bigger brothers. every time I called home, they would be like, how are they doing? You know, is Gemma complaining about walking? Is Candice, you know, how is she doing? So like they're asking about the other youths, you know, how are they doing? You know, they want to know because they feel part of it. And like they're really excited. They want to go to the next one. They said the next one we're not missing it. We're going to be with you. So, but yeah, you know, it does take. I find, you know, if you don't have that family setting, you know, it's harder to deal with the youths. And you know, many times I did had to call attention, but you know, I told them, you know, look, you know, I treat you as a son, and if you love somebody, you address them and you correct them when they're doing wrong. And you know, and that is what kept us going. Even though you might feel the tension, but you deal with the tension then and there, and you know, and it subsides. It was indeed a beautiful experience, just bringing them together. And I think, you know, like one of the youths from Benke said to me one night, you know, I see you guys have like a gritty group, you know, strong, so we're very, very bold group, you know, and like for instance, in adoration, like we would go in and we would sing, and this is something that they don't see in their other groups. Their other groups, they have missionaries that sing, they have missionaries who would lead, but in our group, you know, they lead it. We had, for instance, before we left, we designated a team that would be in charge of the food, so they were responsible for collecting all the tickets and getting the food for us. We had a team that was in charge of prayer, so every day, you know, they would be leading the rosary, praying. We had a team that was in charge of doing the PR and talking, you know, and what's not. So we had, you know, we tried to be as organized as possible when going there.
And everyone like has their part to play.
Yes, everybody had their part to play, you know. Yeah, I mean, you have to push them, and we tried to get them to lead. You know, like I remember one of the nights, you know, when we went before we went to Panama, we were in Colon, and one of the host families says, you know, I see you guys do things different, because every night, like, you know, people would be like, the days were booked, you know, we left home like at 7, we wouldn't get back till like 9, 10 the night, so like we were always out and doing things.
Yeah.
So, but before we went home, we always had to stop by the chapel, you know, meditate there, read the gospel, and do a high, low, and God moment. And that, you know, helped them keep in their mind fixed and trying to find Jesus, trying to find God throughout the day and identify, be more aware of their surroundings and be able to identify those key moments throughout the day so they could share in the night. And that was something that only our group did, well, at least from our perspective. And even, you know, the locals were asking us, you know, why do you guys do this? You know, we just tell them, look, this is what we do. At the end of the day, we have to, you know, be able to meditate on God's graces and see how we have received them, those we have missed, and keep that in mind. And even, you know, when we went to Panama City, it was beautiful there, you know, having the group coming together. And when we were in the neighborhoods, you know, there are a lot of youths there, their age, you know, who would just be lying around. And, you know, several nights they did come together, you know, and they shared, they talked, they sung together. And what was also amazing there was this one man from one of the host family's son. He's a teacher at the university there in Panama, and he was 55. I said, look guys, you know, the government has given us time off, and if you guys want, I could be your guide. And he said, you know, before World Youth Day, the local news and the social media were bombarding it as a time when the youth would come to Panama and just be jollying and being merry and getting drunk and all of this. He says he hadn't experienced that. Even that, you know, brought him to his conversion. Like he says, what I've seen is people kneeling down and worshiping Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament. He hadn't seen that. He said, I hadn't knelt down for so long in all my life, but I see these young people doing it, so it brings me to do it. We took the youths to the vocational fair, you know, and there, you know, they had the different societies or different orders from within the church. So like the Franciscans, the Salesians, all of those. So they could have gone to all of these and visit them. And that was beautiful. And then there also, in this same ground, they had like thousands and thousands of little confessionals for different languages. And we took them there, and they went to do their confessions there before the Mass. Mm-hmm. And there, you know, the guy who was our guide, he said, you know, when he saw the amount of people lining up to go to confession, you know, he reckoned and he said, I need to go to confession because I hadn't been to confession for like 20 years. You know, and for him, he says, you know, look, like when we were leaving, You know, like we had like so many farewells there in Panama City. Like we had one rosary like the night before. Like after the Sunday Mass, we had the rosary there with the vigil. After the vigil, we had one family say, "We'll make soup for you guys after you come back." Another family says, "Look, tonight you come to our house. We bring all the neighbors, and then we say, okay, we do a rosary, and then we have food." The following day, the Monday before we left, you know, we had a mini retreat on top of a mountain where they'd have a big statue of Christ, so that the youth could recollect on all their the graces they received, and you know. What will they do with these graces that they have received when they come back to Belize?
From like the other people that they met on their way.
Yes.
And so I just wanted to thank you for, you know, sharing what it was like being able to, all the different experiences that you guys went through, because it's, I remember on a Kairos retreat that I had went on, that they said that people are God's language. And so when you're maybe interacting with someone who's mean or rude to you, maybe that's a challenge to try and maybe to diffuse the situation, maybe to be kind to them, because most of the time people who are mean to you, they probably have it worse on their own selves, to try and take the happiness away from other people. And the whole point of the World Youth Day is to get unity and to be one with God. And so that has been this special. This is a special produced by Guadalupe Media on World Youth Day. Thank you guys for coming in and sharing your experiences. And I wanted to remind you guys, until next time, that people are God's language.
Hi, Youth of Belize. So we are the Divine Mercy Group, and we're at World Youth Day. And the experience has been so amazing, so tremendous to see so many youths who are on fire for the Lord, to see so many religious people and so many people who are willing to help empower us as youths. And my message to you is, don't be afraid. Because remember, ultimately, your goal is to go to heaven, and you have to, as youths, empower the church. You guys are the future of not only your countries, your schools, but also the church. So please remember that you are part of a bigger picture. It's not only you, you are part of a universal church. So yes, please continue to be strong in your faith and follow Christ.